Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's breaking story is one of the most shocking developments in the ongoing Russia-Ukraine war. Reports are coming in that a Ukrainian passenger train has been hit in a deadly strike, leaving behind chaos, destruction, and scenes of unimaginable horror. Flames engulfed the carriages, passengers screamed for help, and emergency crews rushed to the scene. This tragic incident is already being described as one of the darkest moments of the conflict. Let's dive into the full details. The attack took place late in the evening, when the passenger train was making its routine journey through central Ukraine. Eyewitnesses say the night was suddenly shattered by a deafening explosion. In seconds, the quiet rail line turned into a scene of fire and devastation. Carriages were ripped apart, windows shattered, and the cries of survivors echoed into the night. Many of the passengers were families, workers returning home, and students heading back to their universities. Now, their journey has turned into a nightmare. Local officials confirmed that the strike caused multiple carriages to derail, trapping dozens of passengers inside. Rescue teams described the situation as chaotic, with flames spreading quickly across the wreckage. Firefighters battled to control the blaze, while paramedics worked desperately to pull out survivors. Some were carried away with severe burns, while others were unconscious from the blast impact. The scene resembled a war zone, smoke rising into the air, mangled steel everywhere, and panicked survivors trying to make sense of what had just happened. The Ukrainian government has strongly condemned the attack, calling it a deliberate strike on civilians. President Volodymyr Zelensky addressed the nation with anger and sorrow, accusing Russia of committing yet another war crime. He said this was not a military target. This was an attack on ordinary people, innocent men, women, and children traveling by train. Russia has once again shown its true face, a face of terror. Russian officials, however, are denying responsibility, with Moscow claiming that their forces only target military infrastructure. Yet the evidence on the ground paints a very different picture. Journalists at the scene confirmed there was no military presence near the railway line, only civilians on their way home. Analysts believe this attack is part of a broader Russian strategy to spread fear, disrupt Ukraine's transport networks, and pressure the population into submission. The strike has already drawn international outrage. Leaders from the European Union, the United States, and the United Nations have condemned the incident, calling for an immediate investigation. The EU foreign policy chief described it as an unforgivable act of brutality. In Washington, officials promised new rounds of sanctions and increased military aid to Ukraine, saying that attacks like these only strengthen the resolve of the international community to stand with Kyiv. For the survivors, however, words of condemnation provide little comfort. Many are in hospitals fighting for their lives, while others are searching for missing loved ones. Families have been torn apart in an instant. Videos shared on social media show passengers helping one another escape the burning wreckage. A mother was seen carrying her injured child through the smoke, while other passengers used makeshift tools to break windows and drag people to safety. These acts of bravery highlight the resilience of ordinary Ukrainians, even in the face of such terror. Experts warn that targeting civilian trains could mark a dangerous escalation in the conflict. Railways have been a lifeline for Ukraine throughout the war, moving refugees to safer areas, delivering supplies, and keeping the economy alive. By striking a passenger train, Russia not only inflicted death and destruction, but also sent a chilling message: nowhere is safe. This is psychological warfare aimed at breaking the spirit of the Ukrainian people. Military analysts believe the attack could also be tied to Russia's frustration on the battlefield. Ukrainian counter-offensives in several regions have put Russian forces under pressure. When Moscow struggles to gain ground militarily, it often turns to targeting civilian infrastructure to destabilize the country. Trains, power stations, hospitals, and residential areas have all been victims of this brutal strategy. But history has shown that such tactics rarely break the will of the people. If anything, they strengthen it. Ukrainians across the nation are already uniting in grief and anger. Vigils are being held for the victims, and volunteers are gathering donations for the survivors. Social media is flooded with messages of solidarity, reminding the world that Ukraine will not bow to terror. The scale of the tragedy is still being assessed. Officials fear the death toll could rise significantly as rescue teams continue to search the wreckage. Many passengers are still unaccounted for, and the intensity of the fire made recovery operations extremely difficult. Forensic teams are working tirelessly to identify victims, while hospitals in nearby cities are overwhelmed with the injured. This incident also raises urgent questions about railway security in Ukraine. Authorities are now under pressure to increase protection for trains, especially since they remain one of the most vital transport links in the country. Possible measures include advanced air defense systems along key routes, reinforced train carriages, and rerouting schedules to avoid predictable patterns. However, all these solutions require resources, and Ukraine continues to rely heavily on Western support to defend its infrastructure. International reaction is expected to grow louder in the coming days. Human rights groups are calling for war crimes investigations, arguing that attacking a passenger train with no military presence violates international law. The International Criminal Court may add this incident to its growing list of Russian actions under scrutiny. Already, the evidence of deliberate targeting of civilians is mounting, and this tragedy will further shape the global perception of Russia's conduct in the war. At the same time, geopolitical tensions are bound to rise. Moscow will likely deny or deflect responsibility, while Kiev will use this moment to demand stronger Western action. The strike could influence the debate in Europe about sending more advanced weapons to Ukraine, including fighter jets and missile defense systems. For the United States, it could serve as a rallying point to push Congress for additional funding for Ukraine's defense. But beyond politics, at the heart of this story are the victims, the passengers whose lives were forever changed in a matter of seconds. Survivors describe the train ride as ordinary, even peaceful, before the explosion. Some were reading, others sleeping, children laughing in their seats. Then, without warning, the carriage shook violently, glass shattered, and fire swallowed everything. Many say they will never forget the sounds, the screams, the cries for help, the roar of flames devouring the train. This tragedy serves as a reminder of the human cost of war. Behind every statistic are real people, real families, and real stories of loss. For the passengers of this train, war came crashing into their lives in the most brutal way possible. And for the world watching, this attack is another wake-up call that the conflict in Ukraine is far from over and continues to escalate in horrifying ways. As we close today's report, one thing is clear. The strike on the Ukrainian passenger train has left a deep scar, not only on Ukraine, but on global conscience. Whether it was an act of desperation, intimidation, or sheer disregard for human life, its impact will echo for years to come. The flames that consume the carriages may be extinguished, but the memory of this tragedy will burn on as a symbol of the cruelty of war and the resilience of those who endure it. Stay tuned as we continue to follow this developing story and bring you the latest updates. Please keep the victims and their families in your thoughts. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more breaking news coverage.